Okay. Okay. Awesome. So we're here at Donington Park for the qualifying session ahead of the final round of the GT1 World Championship of 2012. The circuit was plunged into a power failure a few moments ago, so if you were experiencing any broadcasting difficulties, that's exactly why. The session had to be red flagged because literally all the power in the East Midlands area, it seems, went down for a couple of minutes, but we're all back up and running now. So we'll have a few moments of delay whilst the Swiss timing guys try and get the timing screens all back up and running, and then we will have the qualifying session back underway for you. So apologies for that, but thank you for sticking with us if you have done, because it's going to be a very, very close qualifying session. We've got the BMWs in contention, the Hexus McLarens definitely in contention, possibly the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris as well. And let us not forget our championship leading car, the car at the very front of shot there, the 38 Mercedes of Markus Winkelhock and Marc Basseng. They are going to be possibly not in the hunt for pole position because they haven't had a pole position all season in qualifying, but they're certainly going to be challenging the front of the order. So this Donington Park circuit, 4 kilometres long. It's a very well-known circuit. I'm sure you've seen it before. I'm sure you've probably raced around it in the numerous PC games you can get. And as a result, it's really great to end the season here. Nürburgring and Donington Park as the two final race weekends really add some gravitas to this 2012 World Championship. You can see there the drivers and crew all not 100% sure what's going on. It's now just a case of waiting for the full session to be ready to get back underway. The timing screens need to come back up. The marshals and race control need to get their power back as well, because literally everything was lost. Timing screens coming back online now by the looks of things. Certainly mine has, which is good to see. And once that's all ready and race control give the go-ahead, this qualifying session will get underway. So points-wise then, it's a 1 point gap between Marc Basseng and Markus Winkelhock. Jelmer Berman and Michael Bartels just 1 point behind. As far as McLaren are concerned, they could go out of contention today potentially, because they are 32 points behind the championship leaders, and over the course of a GT1 race weekend there are 33 points available, so it is technically possible, but it's very, very unlikely. All it needs is Basseng and Winkelhock to score 2 points or something today, and the McLaren of Fred Makovicky and Steph Dusseldorp will be out of contention. It's impressive for McLaren that they're still even in contention, because they have non-scored in 3 rounds so far this season. Well, if they picked up 1 point in Nürburgring last time. It's 2. Winkelhock haven't failed to score at any point so far this season. It really displays that when the McLaren has been out there running, it has been mighty fast, but unfortunately you can see the Al Inkle cars at the front, then we've got the WRT Audis going all the way back. And it really has been a spectacular season. It's very sad that the season's coming to an end. It's sad that the 2012 GT1 World Championship is coming to an end, because it has provided us with some cracking racing. You think back to Nogaro and the mixed weather conditions we had there. You think back to Zolder. We had mixed weather conditions there as well. Some of the best racing, in fact, the best racing I ever commentated on was the qualifying race at Navarra. Absolutely thrilling stuff. And there you can see the alinkle.com Munich Motorsport squad in the pit lane. They are looking fairly comfortable to take the team's championship. There's a slim chance they can wrap it up today, but it's only a slim chance. It's more likely going to be sealed tomorrow. But they're all really fighting for the Drivers' Championship. That's where the big excitement is coming from. And the 2012 GT1 World Championship Drivers' Trophy is what they're all after. It's actually in the room next to me. I could go and get it if I wanted and have it next to me while I commentate. I might do that this afternoon, actually, just to add a little bit of inspiration. There's the classic Donington shot out of Hollywood at the top, down the Craner curves, through this old hairpin. This is where Marco Ciocci lost it in free practice on Thursday. He just ran wide coming out of that left-hander, got a wheel on the grass, span across to the right-hand side in front of those Pirelli banners, into the gravel and into the wall. So let's hear from the 37 driver, Nicky Pastorelli. How has this delay affected him?
Nicky, a slight interruption. How is this for your mindset going in for the fight for the title?
For me, it's okay. It's just we had to do some things with the tires and the brakes, which is not working out really well for us now. But they start Q1 from zero, so we do it all over again.
Did you think that you'd be fighting for the team's title coming into the series this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we did a lot of good work over the winter, and we started the season. We already knew we would have a good and reliable car, so everything is working out well for us until now.
Thank you.
So Nicky Pastorelli and his teammate Thomas Jaeger have been quick all season, but things haven't quite worked out for them as well as they have their teammates Mark Bassang and Marcus Winkelhock. Pastorelli caught up in an incident at the first corner at the Nürburgring, which knocked them a long way down the field as well. But they'll be hoping to come through and seal a strong weekend. They're still in 5th place in the championship. They won the championship race in Navarra ahead of their teammates when Al Inkle took a 1-2. So they have had success, because incredibly, Mark Bassang and Marcus Winkelhock could win this GT1 World Championship without winning a championship race. Such has been the strength of their consistency. There's the 32 car with Adam Carroll and Laurence Van Thor at the wheel. Really excited to see Adam Carroll out there this weekend. He did bits and bobs of single-seater racing last year. I think he had a one-off appearance in the Formula Renault 3.5 series at Hungary. He did a few GP2 races here and there as well. And there is the local power station. Perhaps that's what's responsible. That's also the venue for East Midlands Parkway Railway Station if you want to get here by train. There's a little bit of tourist advice for you. But let's hear from the man I was chatting about a few moments ago. Adam Carroll's down with Hayley Coxon.
Adam, it's great to have you part of the World Championship. How are you feeling going into qualifying?
Yeah, feeling really good. Testing's been good, and thankfully we've had some consistent weather at the minute. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully it should go quite well.
How do you think the R8 is going to perform here at Donington?
Well, it's been okay so far. We were pretty close in practice, and hopefully we've made a few improvements, and we can fight in qualifying.
Thank you.
Huge wealth of experience for Adam Carroll, and he's going to be driving that Audi R8 alongside Laurence Van Thor. They have had a good season so far, the Audis. It's not been fantastic, but they're still in contention for a decent finishing position in the team's championship. They're not 100% out of winning the team's championship, but again, that would take a massive turnaround. But second place is still very much on the cards. If they can have a strong weekend like they did in the Nürburgring, they may be able to jump the Vita4One Racing Team squad. And it is good to see Adam Carroll out there. He won the A1 GP series back in 2009 for Team Ireland. raced in AutoGP as well last year. So it's been a very successful career for Adam Carroll. Runner-up in British Formula 3 back in 2004, racing for P1 Racing, winning here at Donington Park. So he certainly knows his way around. Let's hear now from the Reiter engineering driver, Stefan Racina.
Stefan, you've certainly been impressive in the Lamborghini. How do you feel you're going to do here at Donington?
Well, we will see. I think for me, when I look at the times, let's say from Germany, I think we are a little bit better, but in the same time everyone is really up there now. So I think yes, in free practices we were all in 1/10, I would say, all the cars. So now it all depends how the drivers will do, I think. So it's going to be tough, I think, to get to Q3 because of that.
Thank you.
That 2004 British Formula 3 season saw a couple of famous drivers in there. Adam Carroll won the opening race of the season here at Donington Park ahead of Nelson Piquet Jr., who of course went on to be a Formula 1 driver. James Rossiter ended that race in 3rd place, but also on the grid you had the likes of Clivio Piccioni, who raced in GT1 last season. Alvaro Parent finished that race in 8th position as well. So British F3 is certainly an excellent stepping stone. The series will have its finale here this weekend as well at Donington Park, in what really is a feast of SRO racing. And a little bit of dark cloud, but it doesn't look as though we're going to get rain, I wouldn't say, here this weekend. Well, certainly today for this qualifying session. Who knows what will happen later on in the day, but there's the view out of the back of the circuit. That's the run-up towards the final corner at Goddard's. You come through that left-hand hairpin and then back out onto this main start-finish straight. A very short pit lane here. There were considerations of using the other pit lane, which is the one where you pull off on the run-up towards Goddard's, but the race director decided that actually it's quicker than going through the final corner to come through the pit lane there, so that was decided against. There's Laurent Groppi at the wheel of the number 10 car. So again, the timing screen information that we're being given, and indeed the entry list, doesn't quite appear to correlate with what's going on out there on the circuit, because according to the timing screens, Benjamin Lariche should be starting that car. The qualifying session will start at 10:10, so a half an hour delay or so, and then we will get this underway. We had qualifying delayed at the Nürburgring 1 week ago after a Blancpain Endurance Series car ploughed through the barrier and took out the arm coat, and then we had to get it all fixed, but so it's another delay here this weekend at Donington Park. Let's hear from Benjamin Lariche, the Ford GT driver.
Benjamin, we just saw you having a chat with Laurent. What were you talking about?
We talk about the setup. We had some difficulty to up the tires and temperature, so we try to try 2 or 3 things on the Q1, and we'll see what's happened.
Thank you.
Benjamin, an experienced racer, competing in FIA Formula 2 last season, and he's been in FIA GT1 for most rounds this year as well. And here's a look down then at the Craner curves as the leading car coming down. The nice little SLS that Thomas Jaeger took me around the Nordschleifer in. Very far. I don't think I'll get over that. I think I'll be mentioning that in commentary for the next 4 years. But there is the leading car. So down towards the old hairpin. Then you come up to under Starkey's Bridge to the Swans curve, and then up the hill to the right-hander at McLean's, after you've picked up a piece of paper from the marshal, just submitting an incident report. And it really is an enjoyable circuit, this, and you've got different levels of experience around this circuit, because some of the venues we've been to this season, you think of Moscow Raceway, you think of Navara, Slovakia Ring, they tend to be people's first visit to the circuit, but we've got a different wealth of experience coming to Donington Park this weekend. Let's hear now from Matthias Lauda. Wonder how relaxed he is.
Matthias, thank you for giving me the opportunity to take a seat here with you. Just chilling before you head out for qualifying. Certainly looking good for the BMW here at Donington.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have to wait a little bit. We have a little bit of delay, but yeah, I'm here with Jelma and just talking a bit of bullshit, to be honest, joking around. And now, yeah, we're getting ready. Now it's Q1. It's not so important because all the car goes through. Then it's more important for us to get the cars into Q3. So hopefully we can make a good lap and get the car in Q3, and then up to our teammates again. Hopefully we have a good qualifying and have 2 good races that they can win the championship.
just going to apologise for your swearing. Thank you, Matthias.
Yeah, apologies for Matthias's language there, but I know the feeling at the moment as he sits there with Jelmer Berman, waiting for this session to get underway. It'll be underway in about 7 minutes' time, so there's a few more moments yet to wait. Now, what Nicky Pastorelli was referencing with the Mercedes was that they have to work really hard to get their tyres and brakes up to temperature, so they were first out on the circuit. The red flag was given after about maybe a lap or two. They'd have been weaving around, putting temperature in the tyres, temperature in the brakes, to try and get everything up to temperature, because the Mercedes is very, very soft on its tyres, which works out for it in the hotter circuits, but here in the cooler circuits it can be a problem. So they've gone through all that, they've put a heat cycle in the tyres, they've got the heat in the brakes, and then they have to come into the pits and stop again. Now I imagine the session will restart with the full 20 minutes of the first qualifying segment to go, so it may not affect them too much unless it means they've taken some life out of the tyres, which may see them struggle later on. But at the same token, the Mercedes tend to set their fastest laps on their 6th and 7th lap on a set of tyres, so it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Just to clarify what I was chatting about earlier with different experience levels at Donington Park, you've got the likes of Oliver Jarvis and Alvaro Parent, who must have done hundreds of laps around here, but some drivers like Marc Basseng are making their first appearance here at Donington Park. Now we can hear from Philippe Dumas, some last-minute words of advice, I think, to Fred Makovicky.
Philippe, can you tell us what your last-minute words are to Fred before he heads out in this session?
Sorry?
Your words to Fred?
No, we don't talk about motor racing. No. We are okay. Huh? We wait for as everybody, and the goal is not to do the pole, because always when X's do a pole, and it's a disaster after. So the goal is to win tomorrow. Only this.
Thank you.
So Philippe Dumas, fairly pessimistic about how the race weekend goes once the qualifying goes well. So it's going to be an interesting session for them. I'm fairly sure, though, Fred Makovicky is going to be in contention for that pole position. The McLarens have looked strong here, and I've no doubt that they will be keen to impress this weekend at their home circuit. We had the French round to start the season, the British round to finish the season. What a season it would have been if McLaren could have, and Hexis could have been a real title challenger. They were real title challengers until the Nürburgring, but a difficult weekend there sees them pretty much out of contention. As I say, they are technically, mathematically, theoretically in with a chance, but in reality it's going to be very, very tough for them. But this was only meant to be a kind of bedding in season for the McLaren anyway. They were never coming into this season expecting to win the championship. It was the first full season really of competition with the MP412C, and as a result they were just looking to kind of learn the foibles of the car, get to know the car's different personality traits at different circuits. But all of a sudden the car was so good and so quick, they found themselves launched into championship contention despite a miserable weekend in the opening race of the season at Nogaro, where they failed to score any points with Steph Dusseldorp and Fred Makovicky, and only picking up 3 points with Gregoire de Moustier and Alvaro Parent. So only a handful of minutes remain before this qualifying session will get underway. And there you can see the Alinco Mercedes switching on their lights as they prepare to get this session underway. It's going to be a very exciting session, I've no doubt about that. The second segment is usually pretty exciting as we see some of the top teams try and squeeze through to the final top 8 shootout, and in fact the Alinco squad have swapped around their driver pairings for that very reason. Michael Bartels, there we go, he will be starting. He usually is the second driver, but they've decided to go with Jelmer Berman as the second driver to try and get them through into Q3, because Michael Bartels was unable to get them through into Q3 last time out at the Nürburgring. And over the course of the season, Berman has been a tiny bit quicker than Michael Bartels in that V241 racing team BMW. That's not to say Bartels is any slouch, but Berman has been very, very impressive indeed. So the engine's starting to fire up down in the pit lane because we've only got 2 minutes to go before this qualifying session gets underway. There is... Now, it's interesting. What is Nicky Mermelhoff doing? Is he envisaging the track in his mind by the looks of things before he goes out onto the circuit in that BMW Z4? That was very interesting to see. As he sits there in the cockpit, look, leaning his head around as he goes to each different corner, eyes shut, and his hands as well, envisaging the corners as well. And our cameraman gives him a bit of a shock when he opens his eyes there, but that's interesting to see. But like I say, this is his first visit to this Donington Park circuit. Same as Marc Basseng, whereas you've got the likes of Peter Cox, who raced in the British Touring Car Championship for 3 years back in the late 90s. Also did British F3, as I mentioned earlier. Michael Bartels has a little bit of experience here. His last time he was here, though, was with an FIA GT race back in 2004, I believe, so it's been a while since he's been here. There have been alterations to the circuit, but only really to the national circuit. The final chicane on the national circuit is a bit quicker now, but we're going to be using the vehices and then down towards the Melbourne Loop, so it shouldn't be too different to how it was when Bartels raced here back in 2004. Laurent Groppi is going to head out in the Ford GT. And there we go, the timing screens have now sorted themselves out completely here as well, so Laurent Groppi will be the start driver there. Although all is not perfect because it says that Jelmer Berman will be the start driver in the BMW, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Michael Bartels. We'll wait until they get out onto the circuit to cross the I's and dot the T's. So the qualifying session, after a delay, will start in just 15 seconds time. Hopefully the cars won't get to the first corner and we won't have a massive power cut again. There you can see Peter Cox inside the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini. He's going to be starting that car with the hope that he will be in the pole position shootout at the end of the session. So the green flag is waved there. You can see the marshal at the bottom of the screen. And let's hope we get a little bit further in this session than we did in the previous one. Again, it's the two Mercedes out in front. It's an almost identical order, in fact, that they're going out in. The Hexus McLarens always wait for a couple of laps before they go out onto the circuit, just to let the traffic spread out a little bit, I imagine. Then we've got Laurent Groppi going out in the Ford GT, which has had a fun season, the Ford GT. It's certainly been up and down. They were in the race lead at Navarra for a bit of contact with Mike Parisi, and the Porsche put them a little further back down in the order, but out onto the circuit now come the cars. This is down into the old hairpin, then through the famous Craner curves and into the fast right-hander. The two BMWs coming through, and we've got the number 4 Ferrari, which is started by Enzo Eid, weaving around to try and get some temperature in his tyres there. And then they come up into the first right-hander at the top of the hill, which is, well, these guys are already at Coppice, but that's McLean's you can see before. Then this kind of double apex right-hander, really. And then out onto the back straight. Down into the vehices, which were added in the 80s, I think, to extend the lap a little bit so it could hold World Championship motorcycle racing. Then down into the Melbourne hairpin. Back up again into the left-hander at Goddard's, and then back out onto the start-finish straight. So the Melbourne hairpin is going to be an overtaking opportunity. Goddard's is potentially as well. It's not a massively long run from the Melbourne hairpin to Goddard's, but if you can get a good exit, then there's always the possibility. And then across the start-finish line then. So down into turn 1 comes Marc Basseng at the wheel of the 38 car. Through the right-hander at Hollywood and then down through the Craner curves. Now, watch the car here at the old hairpin. This is where the Mercedes has been leaning so much through the right-hander. You can't really see it there because Basseng isn't really pushing by the looks of things just yet. Starting to get heat into the tyres is the main aim for the Mercedes. I'm expecting pole position to be, I would say, in the low 27s, maybe a 27.2, something like that is where we're going to see the fastest lap times this weekend. We may see some of the quicker guys creep into the 26s potentially, but I think a 27.1, 27.2 will put you in very good standing. Down the back straight, under where the Dunlop Bridge used to be, and hopefully will be reinstated. Perhaps now it's back in the hands of Chris Evans. You can hear the Mercedes just cruising down to the Melbourne hairpin. So who else have we got out onto the circuit looking fast? Michael Bartels is pushing a little harder, but they're all just going to be taking it easy, trying to get some heat into the tyres. You can see how slowly the Basseng is downshifting, probably working the brakes very hard at every possible opportunity, and they both come into the pits then. That's an interesting one. Mark Basseng and Thomas Jaeger going out doing, what, a lap and a half, and then coming back into the pit lane. So that's an interesting technique. Have to wait and see what they're doing there. I wonder if anyone else will follow them back in. Mayor Melnoff at the wheel, and he does come back into the pits, but staying out on circuit is the Ford GT of Laurent Groppi. Peter Cox and Frank Stippler have also stayed out onto the circuit. They're doing 37s and 38s at the moment, so some 10 seconds off the pace as they just build the heat up into the tyres down the magnificent crane of curves. The cars look great coming down here. It really was a joy on Thursday to stand at the crane of curves down at the old hairpin and watch these GT1 cars roar down the hill. They sound fantastic as well. Then we come through the left-hand Kinker Schwantz up into McLean's, this right-hander. Important from this one is the exit, because there's just that little burst up into Coppice, which is, I say it's a double apex. You don't really take the second apex. Well, some cars do, some cars don't. Just as I say that, the Ferrari of Philippe Salaquada decides he should. Then Laurent Groppi down into the Fogarty S's. Quite a fast chicane, really. 36.4 in the middle sector for Groppi. Their best lap time of free practice was a 1 minute 29.091 in the hands of Laurent Groppi. So anywhere in the 28s would be a decent qualifying session for them. On the power, out of the final corner and across the line. And it's going to be a 32.4, so the quickest lap time we've seen so far for Laurent Groppi, but again, still 3 seconds or so off the pace. And we've still got then the two BMWs, sorry, the two Mercedes are still, I think they may have just headed out of the pits actually. Looking at the timing screens, Jaeger and Basseng may just be heading back out onto the circuit now, as we watch the 33 car of Frank Stippler coming out of Coppice. 0.4 of a second up on the quickest lap time of Laurent Groppi, so still not lightning fast from Stippler, but he's starting to get the hammer down a little bit. Track conditions for the second free practice session saw the track at 21.1 degrees centigrade, so a good 8-9 degrees warmer than they are at the moment, which is obviously going to mean the track is a little slower at the moment. Stippler going very, very wide into the final corner. That was probably to get him a good slingshot out of the final corner and carry as much speed as possible down the start-finish straight. He does a 31.2, but I think this lap may be a little quicker. There's Laurens Vanthoor all ready to go, sitting down on the chair in the middle of the WRT garage. Groppi's gone purple in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2, and spinning in Sector 3. Just leaving his braking a little too late, tried to turn in whilst on the brakes. Rear left wheel on the grass, so that's not going to give him much grip for the next few corners. And he's going to come straight into the pits there, Laurent Groppi. Looking like it was going to be a fairly decent lap, but he comes into the pits just to recuperate. There's no real sense of urgency in this session. because of the fact we've still got 12 minutes to go and no one is going to be eliminated from the session. Thomas Jaeger into the final corner. Much neater line from the Mercedes there, and across the line he comes to do a 33.9. But the Mercedes probably focusing on just getting temperature into their tyres. I know I've spoken about that a lot today, but it really is a problem for the Mercedes. The BMWs have similar issues, but not quite to the same extent as the Mercedes have been struggling with. The 37 car's been fairly quick. It was third quickest yesterday in free practice 2, doing a 28.0. So a more than acceptable lap time. 19.6 in sector 1 for Basseng as he slings the car through McLean's. Back end stepping out on him. As he then pulls out. Ooh. So you can see there, he doesn't take the second apex. The Ferrari did, but the two Mercedes aren't bothering with the second apex and just taking the line of least resistance out to the curbing on the exit. So he's 7/10 up at the moment, Mark Basseng. Frank Stippler's done a 30.5. which again isn't really going to be quick enough for a proper challenging lap time. But these guys are also, don't forget, getting to grips with the circuit, because these are the men who, if their teammates take them through in Q2, these are the men who are going to be fighting it out for pole position. Out of the final corner then comes Mark Basseng. What's this going to be? Maybe first guy into the 29s? Yes, a 1 minute 29.971. A decent lap time, but nothing spectacular still. Here's Laurent Groppy's spin again. Late on the brakes, turns in, keeps trying to turn in. Oh, the rear's locked, I think. That was his problem. The rear right wheel was locked there as he went around. So he's coming to the pits, calmed down a little bit, and he'll head out onto the circuit. Ferrari's looking quick at the moment. Quickest man of anyone in Sector 1, Enzo Eid. Quickest man of anyone in Sector 2, Philippe Salaquada. We're watching Enzo Eid. 35.9 in the middle sector. As he comes down into the Melbourne hairpin. Salaquada doesn't go quickest, he does a 29.7. Decent lap though from Enzo Eid. This could move him into the 29s. Hugs the inside line through Goddard's. And Enzo Eid does a 29.960 to put him fourth currently. Nicky Melnoff in 11th place. I think he's just done his outlap, hasn't he? Yes, so he's coming out onto the circuit now. Adam Carroll and Laurence Vanthor in the 32 Audi are yet to set a lap time. We saw Vanthor sitting down in the garage, so he didn't look particularly stressed out. Unless, I think it's going to be Adam Carroll taking this first session, so I'm not quite sure why the number 32 Audi hasn't been out onto the circuit yet. I'm peering out the window, but I can't quite see down the pit lane far enough to spot what's happening. Fred McAvicky has gone out as well in the McLaren. He's only just gone out as well. So we're into the 28s now. The time's starting to get down to where we expect them to be. Frank Stippler's done a 28.678. Mark Basseng's done a 28.981. Jaeger Salaquada are both on 29.1. And Fred McAvicky jumps up into 5th place. Here's the BMW, the championship challenging car. First time we've really had a look at it so far. Michael Bartel's currently down in 9th place on the timing screens, a 31.4. He's gone green in sectors 1 and 2, which means his personal best. He's about 4 tenths off, so I think we're going to see a 29.1 here from Michael Bartels, judging by his first sectors so far. It's a 29.3, so a little slower than I anticipated. It's enough to move him up into 6th place. Frank Stippler across the line to do a 28.6. Thomas Jaeger doing a 28.7, so that 37 Mercedes looking pretty decent. Basseng's done a 28.9 as well, so perhaps All-Inkle aren't quite as out of this as we may have thought. There you can see the 32 Audi in the pits. It doesn't look like there's any drama down there, does it? But they just haven't been out onto the circuit. It's a strange one for Adam Carroll and Laurens Vanthoor. Fred Makovic is about to set the quickest lap time of anyone. He's matched Thomas Jaeger's best first sector. He's gone quickest of anyone in Sector 2 with the fastest straight line speed of well over 228 kilometers an hour. Out of the final corner comes Fred Makovic, and across the line to do a 28.146. 0.4 of a second quicker than Philippe Salaquada, who's now in second place. There's the 32 Audi I've been talking about. Is there anyone at the wheel there? I can't quite see through. It looks like there is, yeah. So what's happening with that 32 Audi, we're not sure. It looks like it's Adam Carroll sitting at the wheel, which is what I would have expected. Here's Alvaro Parent pushing hard. He's gone decently quick in Sector 1 and decently quick in Sector 2 as well. Not lighting up the timing screens, but it is still an impressive lap time. This could put him into second place as he comes through Goddard's. The problem with the 32 Audi, I'm being told, is that they've got a leak coming from somewhere. They do have to do one timed lap in this session, and indeed it is second place for Alvaro Parent. We're being told that the minimum for qualifying one is to set one timed lap, which is what the Audi team are going to do as Adam Carroll leaves the pit lane now. There he comes. Watch out, watch your mirrors, Adam. And he just about gets out of the way of Michael Bartels, but they're going to do one timed lap and come back into the pits and then try and find out what the problem is. Enzo Eid, quicker than Philippe Salaquada at the moment. That'll be quite a feather in Enzo's hat if he can pull that one off. And in fact, Salaquada's in the pits, so that may be the last we've seen of the number 3 Ferrari in this segment of qualifying. Fred Makovic's dipped into the 27s now. A 27.797, the fastest, second fastest lap of the weekend so far. Berman managed a 27.693, but Fred Makovic is absolutely on it. Alvaro Parent, though, has gone quickest of anyone in Sector 2. He's had a miserable... quickest of anyone in Sector 1, but a miserable Sector 2. 2.5 seconds off the pace, so... not sure what happened to Alvaro there. And he will probably pull into the pits and end his first part of qualifying. There you can see him backing off. Does the final corner. Keeps it nice and tight. Very, very tight indeed. And straight into the pit lane for Alvaro Parent. So it's looking like a Hexus McLaren 1-2 at the moment. This doesn't decide the grid, don't forget. Grid will be decided in Q3, and as you can see from the graphic at the top, this is only Q1. Peter Cox has gone green and green, and he's going to dip into the 29s here. 29.566, which puts him in 9th place. A little bit slower than we would have expected from Peter Cox. What have they managed in... they managed a 28.0 in free practice, so for some reason Cox 1.5 seconds off the pace. In comes Makovic. Now this will just be... There's no real sense of urgency. I don't know whether that... It didn't look quite like a pit stop practice, did it? Unless they're just getting the new slicks ready, and someone's had an off. Michael Bartels. Look at the front splitter of the 18 car. It's absolutely full of grass and muck. You can see it there, can't you? Coming down into the hairpin. So Michael Bartels has obviously had an excursion somewhere on that last lap. Let's have a look at his lap times. Bartels, he set the fastest, well, it's not on this lap because he set the fastest middle sector of anyone. Must have been a couple of laps ago that Bartels had a trip through the scenery, because he's looking very quick in the BMW. Not quite hugging the curb as much as some of the other drivers. Back end stepping out as he comes across the line. Bartels goes 6th quickest. So he lost time in the first and third sectors. The third sector probably particularly because that's the long straight. And that's where the BMWs are weak. It's like a ghost town in the pit lane at the moment. certainly down this near end of the pit lane, because Adam Carroll has gone out onto the circuit, back end sliding around. He's about to come across the line to set a competitive lap time. It's going to be a 34.247. Weaving the car all over the place, so I'm not quite sure what that was about. Possibly just checking everything's okay. Doesn't really need to do that because now he's got the crane of curves where he'll pretty much repeat that motion. Through the right, through the left, and through the right again at the old hairpin. So at least he has set his one required lap time. He's done a pretty decent sector 1 actually there, the 19.6. That's not bad at all from Adam Carroll. Up into McLean's. The second sector split is just as they approach the Fogarty S's down the back straight. So whatever the leak is, it doesn't appear to be hampering Carroll too badly. A good middle sector is a 34.7, and he's done a 36.0, so 1.7 seconds off the pace in the end from Adam Carroll, but this, don't forget, this is his first lap out, really in true anger. So he's just going to stick in a reasonably competitive lap time. It could be a low 29, so this will probably move him up into 10th place, I predict. But again, this won't decide the grid. So really, it's just a case of getting to grips with the car, and in fact, he comes straight back into the pit lane anyway. There you can see the mud and grass I was talking about in the front of Michael Bartels' car. He still managed to go 6th quickest, ahead of both of his Mercedes rivals. Marc Basseng down in 9th position. The tyres being changed, Bartels out, Berman in to take over. Frank Stippler's still out there on the circuit. He's done a lot of laps in this session, most laps of anyone. This is his 11th tour around this 4-kilometre circuit. Actually just dialing himself in if he is in the fight for the pole position. I'm being told it was Lawrence Vanthor actually who was out in the 32 Audi, not Adam Carroll. So presumably that's a transponder issue, with the transponders being set wrong, because in the car you have a switch in the car which you flick, depending which driver it is. Flick it one way it's Adam Carroll, flick it the other way it's Lawrence Vanthor, and that's the information that is then sent to the timing screens, to the graphics department, to everyone around the circuit really. So it's only when Lawrence Vanthor steps out of the car that you know that it's Lawrence Vanthor who was in the car in the first place. So the driver's changing over in preparation for Q2 because the checker flag is out. A little bit of clearage going on. There is the checker flag. A little bit of clearage going on in the front grille of the BMW of Michael Bartels. Stippler still out there on the circuit. Second quickest so far, 28.350. Although, I will say, it does look a little bit like Oliver Jarvis's helmet, so we'll have to see. There's obviously that power cut has caused a few issues with the timings. So we're getting a few mixed transponder messages coming up to us here in the commentary box, so we'll have to wait and see who climbs out of that 33 Audi. Down into the Melbourne Loop. So the quickest man in Sector 1 was Alvaro Perez doing a 19.1. The quickest man in Sector 2 was Thomas Jaeger. So the Mercedes very strong in the middle sector, which I guess isn't surprising because that's the kind of fast corners that they're so strong at. Down through the crane of curves, the old hairpin McLean's and Coppice are corners that will play into the hands of the Mercedes, but the long straights and slower corners perhaps not quite suiting them as well. Into the pits then comes the Audi. Frank Stippler, we believe it is at the moment, pulls into the pit lane. Laurent Groppy still out there. He'll be the last man to return his machine to the pit lane. Only his second appearance, Laurent Groppy made his debut in the Nürburgring last weekend. So he's still getting to grips with this Ford GT. He was the 2010 French GT champion, so he knows his way around these types of cars. And he pulls into the pit lane. So drivers will change over, tyres will change over. And let's hear from Michael Bartels, see if he can tell us what happened, why he's got a lot of grass in the front of his car.
Michael, we didn't see what happened BMW. Can you tell us?
I just had a quick off through the grass. Nothing dramatic, but collected some stuff which should be not there.
Just simply an issue with the tyres, or is there something going on with the car?
It's very difficult to warm up the tires. So I had an understeer in the quick old hairpin corner, and the only way was to open the steering again, otherwise I would have go anyway straight. So I went through the grass and came.
But no damage?
No, nothing.
Thank you.
So no damage for Michael Bartels. No damage for the V1 Racing team to repair. Just a little bit of scooping out of grass from the front of that car. So now Jelmer Berman will take over and try and guide the car into the top 8 shootout, which is really where the championship could take an interesting twist. Here's a look at the Craner curves. It's down at this old hairpin corner that Bartels went wide. So you can see all the tyre tracks actually on the right hand side on the grass there, where people have gone straight on down at the old hairpin. The Donington Park Bridge, Starkey's Bridge I think it's technically known as, up towards the final sections. So here's a look at that first section of qualifying. It's the quickest car out there was the McLaren, first and third for the Hexes Racing McLarens. Fred Makovicky looking very, very quick, but also the 33 Audi of Oliver Jarvis, it looks like, was now at the wheel of the car. You can see the timing screens have actually just changed around. Alvaro Parent setting the third quickest time, Enzo Eid fourth quickest time, Felipe Salaquada in fifth, Bartels in sixth. So championship wise, our two contenders are in 6th and 9th places. If Bartels and Basseng don't finish in the top 6, Makovicky and Dusseldorp win the race, they're still just in championship contention. Laurent Groppy and Benjamin Louis in 10th. Carolyn Van Thorpe down in 12th place after that mysterious leak, which hopefully they can get to the bottom of by the time we get to Q2. So the second session will begin in a few seconds' time. And this will be the first majorly important session because the top 8 from this session will progress to the final pole position shootout. And so they will be pushing very, very hard around this 4-kilometre circuit. You can see the drivers getting strapped in. It's going to be Marcus Winkelhock at the wheel of the 38 Alinkel Mercedes. It looks like it might be Thomas Jaeger taking the second session because, as I say, in that changeover between sessions we had a complete refresh of the timing screens by the looks of things, and as a result it's suggesting that it was Nicky Pastorelli at the wheel in that first session and Oliver Jarvis at the wheel in the 33 Audi, which is what I suspected after I spotted his helmet, although according to this it will be Laurence Van Thorpe taking the wheel in the 32 Audi for this second session. So it's still all up for grabs really as to which driver is in which car. And you can see the tyres being changed on the Mercedes to give them the best grip possible. They were actually finding at the Nürburgring, it was so cold at the Nürburgring. It's quite cold here, but the Nürburgring was unquestionably the coldest event we've had all season, and as a result they were finding they were getting quicker times on the older tyres. Let's hear from the Hexes McLaren pair then. We've got Fred Makovicky and Alvaro Parent down in the pit lane.
Fred, we spoke to Philippe before when he was speaking to you at the McLaren. You don't want pole, but here you are battling for pole between you.
It was the first qualification. It's most to adjust the car for the third qualification, and it shows that the car is competitive on this track. We have every time a little problem of warm-up of the tyre, but for the rest it's okay.
Alvaro, you seem to struggle a little bit in Sector 2, is that right?
Well, yeah, it's very cold conditions and it takes a long time for the tyres to come in. And plus, we had a very tough day on the first day of free practice. But, you know, qualifying is still on, and we'll see what happens on Q3.
So here comes the second segment of qualifying from Donington Park. The two Mercedes out. And again, the transponders are all over the shop. So we'll wait and see as this session progresses just a little bit further exactly who's at the wheel of each of these cars. There is the 38 car though. Doesn't matter who's at the wheel, they need to do an excellent job. Out through the right-hander they come. At the old hairpin. We've got the 33 Audi sitting in the pits for a little longer. And the AF Corsa Ferrari pulls out onto the circuit as well. So we've got the number 1 Hexus McLaren and the 33 Audi. They're the only 2 cars that have remained in the pit lane then. Down the back straight comes the 37 car. Just trying to grab a glimpse of the helmet as he comes down into the hairpin, but then now out comes the number 1 car of Stef Dusseldorp. And up to the left-hander at Goddard's. Does look like, oh, and that's very, very wide and into the grass there. So the Mercedes have trouble getting heat into the tyres. They've had an awful lot of trouble getting heat into the tyres and brakes there. And that's not really going to help them out. So across the line comes Thomas Jaeger, who we think is out for this second session, looking at the white and blue helmet. Although that cars 32 and 38 have just been told to check their transponders. So that suggests that it was Adam Carroll out in the 32 Audi in that first segment of qualifying. So down the hill they come, all the way down to the old hairpin before they start the climb back up. Francesco Castellacci now at the wheel of the number 4 Ferrari. He's got the 38 car of Marcus Winkelhock, who moves over in front of him, so that transponder has now been changed. So as we thought, it's Marcus Winkelhock at the wheel of the 38 car, Thomas Jaeger at the wheel of the 37 car. So there we go, there's final clarification for us, which is good to see. You can see Winkelhock weaving down the back straight just to try and get some temperature into those Pirelli tyres. Jaeger, despite that little off at the hairpin, has gone purple in both the first and second sector. Of course, no one has set a competitive lap time yet, so it's not a massive achievement, but still, there are, well, every car is out on the circuit, but Jaeger has now come back into the pit lane by the looks of things, and that's what Castellacci is going to do as well. Who's going to stay out? Anyone? This is only a 15-minute session. There is the finish line, and yes, we do have a car staying out. It's Adam Carroll. Matthias Lauda as well has stayed out. And there you can see Carroll now at the wheel of that WRT Audi, so they've sent it out straight away. Which suggests whatever fears they had about the Audi look to have been cured at the moment. Under Starkey's Bridge. See how planted the Audi looks through McLaren's. Very impressive indeed. Just perhaps running a little bit wide. Oh no, there's it looks as though he was in the grass, but from that angle you can see there's a little bit of concrete on the edge that the drivers are using. Then we've got Jelmer Berman. Expect him to be quick in this qualifying session, I'd imagine. Greens in sector 1 and 2 for Adam Carroll, but you can see he's being closed in by Matthias Lauda behind him. Stefan Rossina's set the fastest first sector of anyone with a 19.2. Adam Carroll getting out the way. Let's see what kind of lap time Matthias Lauda can do. A 1:28.973. So not a bad time at all, actually, for Matthias Lauda. Their best lap time in free practice ended up being a 1:28.793, so they're not too far off their best free practice time already. with their first flying lap of this qualifying segment, and Matthias Lauda's first flying lap of this session. There's Yama Berman through the old hairpin. Fastest man of anyone through sector 1, a 19.123. That's the quickest first sector we've had so far in this qualifying session. We'll get his second sector split as he comes down the back straight. Not using all of the curve on the exit. A little bit of weaving in front from Thomas Jaeger. Oh no, it wasn't weaving, he was getting back to the inside line. Good work from Thomas Jaeger, good awareness. But look at that, 34.5 in the middle sector for Yama Berman. Which is going to be a pretty good lap considering it's only his second timed lap. Down to the Melbourne hairpin, he's got Frank Stippler in front of him in the 33 Audi. Apologies, it's Adam Carroll in front of the 32 Audi. But into the final comes Yama Berman then. Are we all well out of shape on the brakes? Well out of shape. I was about to say, are we going to see a low 28? We're not. It's going to be somewhere in the 29s. A 29.2, he still goes third. He still goes third despite that massive moment down at the hairpin. Adam Carroll has gone quickest of anyone. The 28.861, the theoretical best from this session, is a second quicker than that, 27.879. If you took everyone's fastest sector times. And, well, to be fair, I think if Berman hadn't made that mistake, he may well have set a competitive time. Here comes Frank Stippler. Decent sector 1 and a decent-ish sector 2 as well. I think this could be the quickest time we've seen so far in this session if he can hook up the final sector. Stefan Rossina was strong in the final sector though. Rossina now the quickest man out there in the Lamborghini Gallardo, you can see, with a 28.779, and it's a 28.936, so it's third place for Frank Stippler. Just a tenth or so behind Adam Carroll. Purple middle sector for Yama Berman. Here's a look at Berman's mistake. You'll see he loses the back end initially on turn-in. There it goes, opposite lock, straightens it out so he avoids the spin, and then realises he's going to have to take to the grass. But he's gone purple in the middle sector, so we could see Yama Berman going quickest of anyone. Stefan Rossina has done a poor middle sector, 1.1 seconds off the pace for Rossina in the middle sector, so either he's backed off or made a mistake. And is that Marcus Winkelhock having made a mistake? There's all sorts of smoke going on, and he looked very slow coming out of the old hairpin. So, looked a bit odd from Marcus Winkelhock. Into the final corner comes Stefan Rossina. As you can see, a bit of a poor middle sector. Let's see if he can improve as he comes across the line. No, nowhere near improving. 28.949. Car 38 spun and continued at turn 4, so it was a spin for Marcus Winkelhock at the old hairpin. I imagine he just got a wheel on the grass and it spat him back out in front across the circuit. Peter Cox on the left. His teammate Stefan Rossina currently fourth quickest. Here's a look at the replay then. Oh, it goes already. So Marcus Winkelhock, the car's gone on turn into the old hairpin. Just trying to take too much speed through. Currently 8th and 11th quickest. Championship leaders as it stands would make it through to the final segment of qualifying, but they've got Gregoire de Moustier trying to threaten, Benjamin Lariche, Thomas Jaeger, Francesco Castellacci, all trying to get into that top 8 shootout. And here is Gregoire de Moustier. 19.4 in sector 1 is decent. 35.9 in the middle sector isn't great, but we know the McLarens aren't great in the middle sector in general. Moustier hugs the inside line, and this could put him up into the top 8. It's 10th place though for de Moustier. Didn't hook it up in that final sector at all. He's losing 0.8 of a second in the final sector, Gregoire de Moustier. And Hexis make a note of that. And the transponders have changed again then, so it looks like it's Lawrence Vanthoor in the 32 Audi. We thought it was Vanthoor in the first sector, but session. Then we were told it was Adam Carroll. would then make sense if Van Thor is out now. Down into the hairpin comes the 38 car of Marcus Winkelhock. A decent Sector 1 actually in the Mercedes, and a 35.0 in Sector 2 is not particularly strong actually from Winkelhock. Out onto the start-finish straight he comes, and he does a 28.707. 34.4 final sector isn't bad, but for some reason Winkelhock can't get it hooked up in the middle sector, which is where, in the first segment, we saw Mercedes strongest. Benjamin Lariche back out in the pit lane, so we've got all the cars out on the circuit. Here comes the Ferraris. We haven't really spoken much about them. Chiocci, this chap here, is in 7th place with his teammate Castellacci in 10th place, but it's a purple first sector for Marcus Winkelhock. The Mercedes looking strong in Sector 1. Down into the hairpin comes Chiocci. 19.2 in Sector 1 is decent. 35.1 in Sector 2 is slow. Let's see what he can pull out in the final sector. At the moment, Jaeger, Castellacci, Demoussier and Lariche would be out in Q2. And Chiocci goes up into 3rd place. So a very, very good final sector for Marco Chiocci. But here is Winkelhock then. His first sector was the quickest of anyone. His middle sector is the 35.1, which isn't great, but this could still, if he can get a decent final sector. Whoa, the back end goes again for Winkelhock. Holds it on, but this isn't going to be quite as strong a lap time as he would have liked. It's going to keep him in 8th place for 28.660. Big moment, here we go. Again, it's just under braking, the back end steps out. There it goes. Something that happened. Thomas Jaeger struggled in the other Mercedes. We've seen Berman as well have the same problem. This could be a good lap here for the Lamborghini. Stefan Rossini's gone quickest of anyone in Sector 1. Sector 2 is much slower than the BMW, but the final sector is where the Lamborghini is strong. Dives in early to get the apex, run it all the way around the inside. Are we about to see Stefan Rossina go quickest of anyone? 3rd quickest. 3 tenths away from Yalma Berman. Still a decent lap time for the Ryder Engineering Lamborghini. Steph Dusseldorp currently 6th quickest. At the moment, we've got championship leaders Marcus Winkelhock and Marc Basseng in 10th place, with their main rivals quickest of anyone. Winkelhock needs to find, wow, it's mighty tight. 3rd place to 10th place is half a second. 3rd position to 10th position is half a second. So if Winkelhock can find 3 tenths, and Winkelhock's had another spin. He spun at turn 1 according to the timing screens. He is under a lot of pressure, and in fact, if he's only just spun at turn 1, he might not be able to get back around again to start another lap. So the championship leaders might be starting 10th on the grid for the qualifying race. Out of the final corner comes Thomas Jaeger. He goes 5th, so the pace is there. Sorry, he stays 5th. Here we go, are we going to see it? There he goes. Marcus Winkelhock spinning on the exit of turn 1. And that has surely ended the qualifying session for the championship leading number 38 Mercedes. Off again at turn 4. What is going on with Marcus Winkelhock and that 38 Mercedes? Very strange. He had that spin at turn 1. It's exactly the same spin. This could have been a replay of the spin he had earlier on, pirouetting away on the grass. But looking at the sector times, he had that spin at turn 1. He managed to get round again to start another lap before the clock went to 0, and he spun at turn 1. So that means that our championship leaders, that car, the 38 machine, Marcus Winkelhock and Marc Basseng, will start the qualifying race later today from 10th position. The championship leaders don't make it through to the top 8 shootout. whereas their main championship rivals are quickest through. Adam Carroll second quickest, Stefan Rossina third quickest, Matthias Lauda fourth quickest. So that's great news for BMW in terms of the team's championship as well. Well, the pressure was on Winkelhock in the Nürburgring. He pulled out a magnificent lap to squeeze through into the top 8 in qualifying. But it hasn't worked here. He couldn't cope, well, whether he couldn't cope with the pressure or whether there was something wrong with the Mercedes, because you wouldn't expect Markus Winkelhock, an experienced GT racer, an ex-Formula 1 race leader, you don't expect him to crack under the pressure. 3 spins in 15 minutes of qualifying. It's not great. Here comes the number 3 car of Marco Chiocci. He stays in 7th place. So that means we've got Stippler out in the Audi. Winkelhock out. There he is. Let's see what the reaction is as he comes into the garage. Shrug of the shoulders. Here comes Marc Basseng. Well, that was got marched away there, didn't he? Let's creep out the back here. I was talking quieter so I didn't disturb them, but Marc Basseng and Markus Winkelhock will start 10th on the grid for the qualifying race. I think they're going out the back to have some stern words. So there you can see the not qualified teams. The Audi R8 in 9th place. 10th place for Markus Winkelhock. 11th will start Grégoire de Moustier. And, well, Amara Perin will actually start the car. And 12th place for number 10. Ford GT of Benjamin Lariche. 2 Ferraris in 7th and 8th places. Was expecting a little more of them, but again, let me reiterate, the top 8 that went through from qualifying was separated by half a second. So this is going to be a mighty close fight for pole position in this final 10-minute qualifying shootout. There is Winkelhock. Wasn't too long a discussion with Marc Basseng. I wonder if they've got setup issues on that 38 car or something like that, because the sister car made it through, albeit only just. Made it through nevertheless with a 28.223, only 4/10 off pole position. So real troubling times for the championship leaders. Alincourt were leading the championship last year, and then things started to fall apart for them in Ordos. Markus Winkelhock has refused to speak to us down in the pit lane. And so as a result, we will have a look at the qualifying results from Q2. The top 8 making it through to the final pole position shootout. 9th downwards is the way the grid will line up. So it's the BMW that was the quickest, 27.867. Still not quite as quick as I thought we might be going. I guess it is cooler here now than it was yesterday. A lot windier as well. When I say yesterday, I mean Thursday, of course. But Bartels and Berman, quickest of anyone. Lawrence Vanthoor, good lap from Adam Carroll. Ian Vanthoor, second quickest. Peter Cox and Stefan Rossina, third quickest. Mermanov and Lauda in 4th. Pastorelli and Jaeger, there you can see squeaking through in 5th place. Nakovici and Dusseldorp in 6th, 7th and 8th for the 2 Ferraris. Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler will be disappointed that they couldn't make it through, but look at that, half a second, well, 6/10 pretty much between the top 9. It's going to be a very, very close qualifying session. Then Grégoire de Moustier couldn't quite get it hooked up, nor could Benjamin Lariche, so 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th places on the grid decided. So the pit lane is busy because the final 10 minutes of qualifying is about to come up. Nicky Pastorelli at the wheel of the 37 car. He now is the Mercedes' only hope of making it through and of making a good position. It's been a very rare occurrence this season that both Mercedes haven't made it through. Only one has made it through this weekend. Usually both end up going through. There's the bridge over the start-finish straight down through the Craner curves. It really is a spectacular venue. We nearly had Formula 1 here, you might remember that whole mess really in 2007 when the circuit was taken over, redevelopment was planned, and you can see all the infield there was dug up in preparation for construction work, but construction work never really began. But happily, the circuit is now back in the hands of the Wheatcroft family, and it's great to have racing back here at Donington Park, including the culmination of an FIA GT1 World Championship. Let's hear from Adam Carroll. He's looking very quick. The Audis could well be contenders.
Adam, considering there could possibly have been an issue with the 32, it's certainly performing well for you.
Yeah, the car's really good. I was happy with qualifying. You know, takes the tyres a while to come in, so you just got to keep going around, and then you can push hard towards the ends. But it was good. Really enjoyed it.
You said there might have been a leak earlier. Is it all okay?
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Yeah, the guys did a quick fix on it, and it seems to be okay. So hopefully we'll have a shot at the front row.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So Adam Carroll hoping to take pole position. And Lawrence Vanthor it will be at the wheel of that car. Stefan Ortelli's taken a pole position so far this season, but I don't think Vanthor has taken a pole, has he? Because usually it's Ortelli who is the first driver, who therefore gets to have the run out in the final section of qualifying. You can hear the engines revving up because it's not long now until this final 3 minutes. This final segment of qualifying and then about to get underway. It's going to be a really, really interesting battle. Michael Bartels will be hoping for a strong position. My money is probably on Fred Makovicky in the number one Hex's McLaren, and it's massively possible that Fred Makovicky will put his McLaren on pole position for this one. Here the engines revving up down in the pit lane. Yes. Nicky Pastorelli will be the only hope for the Mercedes in the pit lane. Peter Cox as well. Let's not discount him in that Reiter Engineering Lamborghini. He's going to be very strong. The green flag is waved then. Away we go. The final 10 minutes of qualifying. There's Winkelhock's spin at turn 1. And that was really the spin that put them out of qualifying 3. The other spins didn't help. There was this one, which was the second spin at the old hairpin. As I say, watching down at the old hairpin yesterday, the Mercedes had to wait so long to get back on the power. The BMWs would be on the throttle about here. The Mercedes would almost be on the exit curving by the time they managed to have their foot fully on the throttle pedal. There's Peter Cox. He's definitely within a shout of pole position, as is Lawrence Vanthor. It's going to be a very, very interesting 9 minutes of qualifying coming up for you. 8 cars out there. I don't think the Ferraris quite have the pace. I don't think the Ferraris will challenge for pole position, and I don't think Nicky Pastorelli will either. So I think it's going to be between 5 cars. 2 BMWs, the McLaren, Audi and the Lamborghini. Lawrence Vanthor is the first man out there. He got on it straight away, overtaking the Mercedes that was out in front of him, weaving around to try and get some temperature in the tyres. So here goes Lawrence Vanthor. There's no time to dally around getting tyres up to temperature really in this session. He'll have a few weaves here and there, but with only 8 minutes left, it's time to get cracking. Down through the Craner curves. Little dab on the brakes for the Audis. The Audis tend to have a little dab on the brakes. Some of the cars can get through that left-hander at the Craner curves with just a lift. And it's easily flat through the left-hander at Starkey's. Maybe a little tap on the brakes through Svantz to try and slow the car down on the entry to McLean's. up the hill, over the brow through Coppice. Again, you can see Vanthor not bothering with the second apex, just running out nice and wide. Vanthor's done a 19.6 in Sector 1, 35.4 in Sector 2. Not bad sectors for your... Wow, look at that. All four wheels off the ground as he clouted the curb on the inside line. Down into the Melbourne hairpin. No one really coming with Laurens Vanthor on this opening lap. He has absolutely gone for it. Team manager of car 32 to race director after the third session of qualifying. So that's this car we're watching now. The race director has to go and have a chat with the team manager. 29.225 then for Vanthor. Decent debut lap. Still expect pole to be in the mid-27s now. I thought earlier it would be low 27s, but I don't think the track temperature is quite up to that. Nicky Melnoff in the 17 car. Here's our championship challengers. Michael Bartels comes across the line to do a 34.0. Still just getting the tyres up to temperature, but we've only got 6 minutes to go. The Lexus McLaren is out there as well in the hands of Fred Makovicky. 17 BMW comes out of the final corner. Little twitch from Nicky Melnoff. There's a 38.612, so still Vanthor the only person to have set a representative lap time, but now the times are coming in. Thomas Jaeger's gone quick in Sector 1. Vanthor himself has gone quick in Sector 2. Here is Thomas Jaeger. He is marginally quicker than Laurens Vanthor at the moment. There's not much in it though between the pair of them. Down into the hairpin. Apologies, it's Nicky Pastorelli at the wheel of that car. 37, they just haven't changed the transponder over. And all sorts of transponder fun today. Wide line being taken in, so a late apex for Nicky Pastorelli. Vanthor does a 28.591. What can Pastorelli do? Only a 28.845. So Vanthor into the mid-28s. There's still more lap time to come out there. And if anyone can find lap time on a circuit, it's Fred Makovicky. Up into Coppice. Really see him working at the wheel as he comes out onto the back straight. What's this? It's a poor middle sector. Sorry, poor first sector, but the middle sector's been good. Bouncing over the curbs. That's a great shot on the exit of the Fogarty S's. Down into the Melbourne hairpin. So it's a decent, if unspectacular, lap so far for Fred Makovicky. The Hexis crew ready with the stopwatch. And I think they're going to be stopping it on a 28.8, something in that region, if he can hook up the final sector. Across the line comes Makovicky. It's a 29.0. So it's only good enough for third quickest at the moment. Peter Cox is looking very quick. Peter Cox could well be about to set the fastest time of anyone. Out onto the final corner comes the Audi. Vanthor comes across the line to do a 27.746. Good lap from Laurens Vanthor, but Peter Cox could be about to match it when he comes over the line as well. Vanthor looking strong then. Peter Cox out of the final corner. Across the line he comes, 27.970, so not quite quick enough to outpace Vanthor at the moment. Fred Makovicky's gone quick in Sector 1. Nicky Pastorelli's now gone quickest of anyone in Sector 1. There is Makovicky. Second fastest first sector time of anyone. Third fastest now because Peter Cox has just gone quickest in Sector 1. What a thrilling qualifying session this is turning into. Vanthor, Cox, Pastorelli and Makovicky all in the battle for pole. And Michael Bartels not too far off. I don't think he's quite got the pace in that 18 BMW. Here comes Makovicky then. 35.1 in the middle sector isn't great, but we know the McLaren isn't particularly strong there anyway. Are we going to see Fred Makovicky move to the top of the timing screens onto provisional pole position? No, it's a 28.1. So that didn't Didn't work out well for him. Peter Cox's middle sector hasn't gone well. Vanthor's middle sector's gone all right. They're all kind of falling off in the middle sector at the moment. Vanthor doesn't improve either.
This is going to affect the championship, but what will be of relevance is where they start the qualifying race.
Across the line comes Pastorelli. Fourth place, 28.358. Here comes Peter Cox then. Good first sector. Not amazing middle sector. Not a decent final sector. So a 28.074 is slower than he's been previously, so not good enough for Peter Cox. Michael Bartels set the fastest middle sector of anyone on that last lap, but he still remains in 5th place. We're getting towards the final laps of this session now.
Audi, Lamborghini, McLaren, Mercedes.
So everyone who comes across the line now will be starting their final lap. Here's Fred Makovicky leaping over the curving. He's had a shocking middle sector. He lost 4 seconds in the middle sector somewhere. So perhaps he backed off to just try and cool the tyres down for one final flying lap. The final battle for pole position of the season. And it could be one of the most exciting of the season. Makovicky backing off just to give himself some room. Here comes Laurens Vanthor. He'll send it in nice and deep so he gets the late apex and the most possible speed out of the corner. Laurens Vanthor, 1 minute 27.887, so this is his last chance. He's currently on provisional pole. Provisionally second is Peter Cox. He's had a decent lap so far, but it's not particularly impressive. I don't think this is going to improve his time. It's 27.9 at the moment, and it's a 28.1, so this is the last chance for Peter Cox now to improve. Fred Makovicky out there. What's his first sector time been like? A 19.1 is okay. Needs to find some speed though in the middle sector, and he'll come through the middle sector split in a moment. Needs to be somewhere in the low 35s. It is in the low 35s. It's a 35.013. You couldn't get much lower in the 35s. The McLaren bouncing his way on the exit of the chicane. Brilliant stuff. The plane coming down in the background, but Fred Makovicky is flying. Best middle sector for him personally. The McLaren is strong in the final sector. Can Fred Makovicky take provisional pole position? The checker flag is out. The Hexus McLaren on its home soil can't do it. It's not good enough. It's second place on the grid at the moment for Fred Makovicky. Out of the final corner comes Vanthor. Can he improve on his last tour? No, he can't. He remains, though, provisionally quickest Laurens Vanthor. What a debut weekend that'll be for Adam Carroll. Who is still out there that can upset them? Peter Cox has had a poor sector one. Here comes Nicky Pastorelli. He remains in 4th place. Meyer Melnoff has just set the fastest middle sector of anyone. Nicky Meyer Melnoff here could be in with a shot of pole position in the 17 BMW. The 34.711 in the middle sector. Here he comes. I wouldn't have put Meyer Melnoff down as a possible pole contender, but he could be about to stick it on the front 2 rows of the grid. He's currently 5th. He's just been knocked down, actually. Philippe Salaquada jumps up to 4th, so Meyer Melnoff currently P6. Good position, but not quite what he wants. Across the line comes Meyer Melnoff, and he remains in P6. Good position, P6, but not quite what he would have wanted. That final sector didn't go quite according to plan, but he had the fastest middle sector of anyone. So that means Laurens Vanthor and Adam Carroll will be on pole position for the qualifying race this afternoon. Fred Makovicky and Steph Dusseldorp in the number 1 Hexus Racing McLaren GT MP4 12C that you can see on the screen there will be second on the grid. Peter Cox in 3rd. 4th place for Philippe Salaquada. 5th place for Nicky Pastorelli. So the Mercedes have managed to out-qualify the BMWs, but it's the wrong Mercedes. It's the wrong Mercedes. Nicky Meyer Melnoff in 6th. Michael Bartels only quick enough for 7th place. And Enzo Eid completing the top 8 in his AF Corsa Ferrari. Here's a look at it on screen. Just over a tenth of a second, the difference. Makovicky did all he could, but he didn't have enough in the tank to prevent Audi from taking another pole position. Lamborghini in third place. We've got 6 brands in the top 6. It really has been a close season of racing, and today is no different. Expected a little more, perhaps, from Michael Bartels. He will start in 7th place, but crucially, it's in front of his main championship rivals, and that's got to be his only focus coming into this afternoon. Enzo Ede and Francesco Castellacci in 8th place. But let's hear from Adam Carroll. He will take pole position on his GT1 debut.
Adam, this is turning out to be quite the debut for you.
Yeah, it's good. We got a pole, obviously, and Lawrence did a really good job. You know, he's been really quick all weekend, and you know, I was happy with Q2, and you know, we started on the front row in pole position, even better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Adam Carroll then goes off for a PA interview as well, but a great performance from him, and he will be starting the qualifying race this afternoon from pole position. The qualifying race is due to get underway. We go on air at 2:30 local time, so that's 3:30 European time, so a little bit later than usual, but that's when we'll be around for the qualifying race. We hope you can tune in because it's going to be an absolute cracker. Here's a look at how close the championship is. Only 1 point between Basseng and Winkelhock and Bartels and Berman, but it was a very difficult qualifying session for Basseng and Winkelhock. They will be starting only 3 places behind their championship rivals, so it's not a complete disaster, but it's going to be a mighty close weekend. We can't wait for it. I hope you can't wait for it either. You can join us at 2:30 local time, 1:30 GMT, if you want to look at it that way, for the qualifying race this afternoon. It's going to be absolutely breathtaking, I've no doubt. But it's the pole position for Lawrence Van Thor and Adam Carroll on his debut in FIA GT1. Adam Carroll will be starting from pole position. That's going to be impressive and daunting perhaps for him, but he's got plenty of experience, so I'm no doubt he'll be fine. Fred Makovicky will be second on the grid, Peter Cox third. Thank you for joining us for this qualifying session. We will see you later on for the qualifying race. You should join us. It's going to be a cracker.